One of the moments in DC Comics where I most found myself reflected back at me was when I first moved out of the city that I'd spent my whole life in the suburbs of Washington, DC, and I moved away. And in that time, I started reading the New Teen Titans and then Nightwing. And I got really, really into the character of Nightwing as someone who had a home where he was really, really like loved, and he was Robin, and he left to go to Bloodhaven and do his own thing. And I read that at a time in my life when I was doing the same thing. And I just imprinted on Nightwing in that way. He always got through whatever he had to with his heart and a great smile and a great butt. And I have all those traits. So if he can do it, I can do it too.
The first character I related to was Wonder Woman. And part of that had to do with her Stoppleworth love stance, which was sort of made famous in the Linda Carter TV show, which was another huge entree for me into DC Comics. Wonder Woman at her core wanted nothing more than for human beings to get along with each other. And I think that's actually really extraordinary. And it's actually something that really spoke to me.
I think one of the first ones that from the Teen Titans series that really caught my attention was the whole arc involving Raven and Trigon and the whole sort of apocalypse. That was because for a kid's show, they got dark several times on that series. And that was sort of my first exposure to like a really like comic book story that with stakes.
What was the first story that I identified with? Easily it was Crawling from the Wreckage, the Doom Patrol storyline. It was Grant Morrison's first one. He did it with Richard Case. And it was just incredible because I read it as a teenager. I had a lot of disconnect with my own body. I am a trans woman. So as a teenager, I did not look as lovely as I do now. And I had difficulty with that. And so there's a whole sequence in that early storyline where Cliff Steele, the robot man, is having similar kind of dysphoria and difficulty with his own body. And it really struck a chord in a way that I realize now what it was doing, because I was not fully aware of my trans identity as a teenager, but even so, that really struck a chord and touched a lot of emotions very viscerally in a way that no story had since.
The first DC story that I identified as a fan was Tempest by Phil Jimenez, which in it he dedicates the entire series to Neil Posner, his partner. And it's when I saw like the people behind the comics that they were humans too, and they were also LGBT people.
A lot of Green Lantern stuff, I think. In particular, old Denny O'Neil, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, I got into pretty early on. Those comics are so messy, but they try. And trying and pushing and evolving for me and seeing that on the page was incredibly important.
So the first character that I really related to in DC was definitely Cassandra Cain. I remember being on Wikipedia and looking for any Asian superheroes I could find. And I read about Cassandra Cain and I was like, this girl is the coolest character I've ever seen in my life. She was extremely competent, she was really cool, and she looked like me, and that was really cool. That was the first time I think I'd seen an Asian superhero character, and I was just in love instantly.